Welcome to BS with Tommy and Wes.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to BS with Tommy and Wes. I am Wesley Crane, and as always, I'm here with my heterosexual life mate, Tommy.
That's right. And that as my heterosexual life mate, you did me a good service and you brought me one of these Welch's grape juice flavored Ghost.
Yeah.
They're very hard to find. I still have not seen one like in a store yet, but you somehow always find the motherload of them. So I'm gonna enjoy this thing.
Yeah. It's strange. They're at this Casey's over by my place, but it's like it's either they have a ton of them or they have one left. Always.
You manage every time. I'm also going to point out real quick, we always start this podcast off with good morning. But for the first time, this is not going to be the morning.
Yeah, this is like mid-afternoon.
We're recording this the day of that we usually post these. And today is currently Wednesday. We release these on Wednesdays. We have just not had the time to sit down and record an episode by ourselves, just you and me.
Yeah.
So until right now. So we're getting this out day of.
Yes. It's gonna be a very interesting episode, to say the least. We've got a couple things to talk about. We're gonna talk about the Lights Out match we just had at MPX. We're gonna talk about our year-end awards because Oklafan just released theirs, so we decided we should take it upon ourselves to do ours. Yeah, and I've got a couple little small things to talk about, but first, I've got to get something off my chest. I've got this McDonald's bag sitting here. I was telling you before we started recording that I haven't really eaten a whole lot in the past 48 hours, so I decided to go ahead and be a little fat fuck and go to McDonald's. And it wouldn't be so bad if I would have just stopped at like a sandwich or maybe a sandwich and fries, like just a small thing, but I didn't. I went like full blown. I got a McDouble, I got fries, I got chicken nuggets, I got a McChicken, I got 2 different pies, and then I got a large Diet Dr. Pepper's, if that's supposed to do something. But
You're saying this like there's something wrong. This is how I order food every time.
But I have a bone to pick with this McDonald's because a while ago they used to have something called the Buffalo Ranch McChicken, where it had bacon on it, it had buffalo sauce, ranch sauce, and it was oh so delicious. They've since discontinued that. However, if you just make it yourself, you add bacon to the McChicken and then get yourself some buffalo and ranch, you'll be all right. The problem I have is that I definitely ordered buffalo sauce through the little voice box. And when I pulled up to the window, I secondhand got the ranch, because sometimes they won't give you extra sauce, you know what I'm saying? So she hands me the ranch, and I can't necessarily see what's in the bag because they built like a fort around shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is the buffalo sauce in here? Long story short, it wasn't. And this bitch had the audacity to look me square in the face and go, yeah, it is.
Oh, the people at the window never know. They never know.
She put the fucking bag together.
I know. That doesn't mean anything, dude.
I drove away. I was looking for my fucking buffalo. Not in the goddamn bag.
So you've got to order it like you normally would, but then when you get to the window, you always got to ask for extra. Always.
That's the move. I've got to do that from now on, because that is just the most frustrating. Now I just have a ranch McChicken, which, I mean, is what it is, but the buffalo just adds a little spank to it. You know what I'm saying?
The spank. Who doesn't love a little spank?
Exactly.
Who does a little bottom pat? Man, I wish I had a story as intriguing as that, but man, no, I don't have anything quite like that. But usually when I order food, though, like I said, it is something like that. I just get like I can never decide on one thing, and I'm not really a fan of combos. I don't really do combos.
Yeah,
I just get a bunch of stuff. I want to say I went to Taco Bell about a week ago maybe to get lunch, and when I go to Taco Bell, it's like, all right, I'm gonna get one massive thing, like one of their special big things, whether it's like a Mexican pizza or a quesadilla or some kind of I don't know. I'll get one of those, and then I start adding in all my little filler stuff. So I'll get 3 chicken enchilada burritos with no sour cream. and then I'll get 2 regular tacos and 2 Doritos Locos tacos with no lettuce. And then I'll also get whatever like extra stuff they have going at the point, like a little mini Chipotle cheese wrap or whatever, or something, or nacho fries or whatever. I get bare minimum like 7 items every time I go get food, period. So if I was to go to like McDonald's, it would be a lot of the same. Like we're getting a big burger, like a quarter pounder, a double quarter pounder with bacon, large fry. We're getting like 2 McDoubles with no onions, no mustard. We're getting 2 McChickens, just plain with cheese. Like it's
It's the whole thing. Plain with cheese.
I don't do lettuce, dog. Don't do lettuce.
Interesting.
I don't do lettuce. I don't do like ranch or anything like that either. Whatever usually comes on it, mayonnaise. I don't know.
Yeah, it's usually bread, mayonnaise, lettuce, and then the chicken patty.
Yeah, dude. That's another thing. I modify a lot. Everywhere I go, I modify. Even some of the basic stuff. Like today, I had Arby's for lunch, and all I got was 2 beef and cheddars, and I still modify those to be on a sesame seed bun because I don't like the onion roll bun.
What is the best thing you've ever modified? Like, that's your, like, oh, bitch. Like, that's what I'm getting. You know what I'm saying?
That's tough because I've worked at a lot of these fast food joints, and my answer would be something that I've just made for myself.
Okay.
But I don't know. Oh, man. I guess it... Well, I guess like when something gets like discontinued, maybe I'll try to find ways to recreate it.
Okay.
So like Taco Bell doesn't have the quesadillas anymore.
Right.
Or I think you can still do it online. I'm not sure. But like if you order like a 5-layer burrito, take off the sour cream, you sub the beans to rice, and you ask for it grilled, it's the same thing. I mean, I think quesadillas also had sour cream, but I just don't like sour cream. But it's the same thing. You sub the beans to rice, and you get it grilled. And it's the same thing. And I love quesadillas.
That is, I believe, the most like underrated thing that you can do to any burrito at Taco Bell is ask it grilled. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the cheesy bean and rice burrito. I don't care if it's your 5-layer burrito. If you ask for it grilled, it automatically like improves that burrito substantially.
Yes. It's my favorite thing to do, man. Especially when I go to Taco Bell is crazy. I go to Taco Bell religiously, and I've got a bone to pick with them right now. I'm really angry because every Taco Bell in my goddamn area has discontinued their fucking breakfast. And let me fucking tell you, I have had a cunt. I just said I had a cunt. That's not true. That's not true. Except for the last few weeks, because I was between jobs for a little bit, whatever. Every Friday morning, and sometimes on a Saturday morning, I would go to Taco Bell. And bare minimum, I always get a steak breakfast crunch wrap. I do that every Friday morning, except for when I did the 75 hard. Aside from that, I always go to Taco Bell at least once per weekend to get a fucking steak breakfast crunch wrap. And I pulled up with 3 goddamn Taco Bells between here and my job. And none of them fucking serve breakfast anymore. And I'm pissed.
So what is the difference between a regular steak crunch wrap and a steak breakfast? Is it just like eggs
So
and shit?
So like a regular crunch wrap usually comes with like you have your 12-inch tortilla, or is it a 10-inch? I think it's a 10-inch tortilla. And you put in whatever your meat is, and you put in the cheese. And then it gets like a tostada shell or 2 taco shells. Or a broken taco shell, put on top of that. And on top of that, you put all your fillings. So lettuce, tomato, sour cream. And then you fold it a certain way. You know what a crunch wrap is. Yeah. You fold it like a crunch wrap. That's a regular crunch wrap. A breakfast crunch wrap is more or less the same. You got your meat and your cheese. And you, instead of like a shell, it gets a hash brown.
Oh.
And on top of the hash brown goes like the eggs and whatever else you add to it typically. But that's typically just what it is. It's just meat, eggs, cheese, and hash brown.
Okay.
Yeah, I usually like add red sauce to it or something.
As you say that, as you like kind of break down the ingredient list of a breakfast crunch wrap, I can say it sounds much better than a regular crunch wrap just because I'm a fucking whore for potatoes.
Yeah, I think it gets potatoes too. Yeah, like, or that might be what it is. Instead of a hash brown, maybe it just gets like, I don't know. I don't remember. I never worked during breakfast time, so I don't remember, and I never pay attention to what I'm eating because I'm just paying attention to how good it feels in my mouth. No dating.
So we've got a couple things to talk about. One of them being the lights out match we just did at MPX. We've got it playing right here next to us, and my God, it was an absolute blast.
It was so damn fun.
It was probably the most fun I've had in the ring since we've come back to MPX. Like, I have fun out there with you every time we're out there. Like, that's no secret. But this match, there was something very special about it. I mean, we all had the same kind of mindset going in of just like ripping the fucking roof off this place. And everybody in XV, at least, we all went out there with Jason Silver somehow, some way.
Yeah.
I know that Sky and Langley had the silver bands on their arm. Anybody that knows me knows I wrestle with character socks every time. The last few matches we've had, I've wrestled with Hello Kitty socks. This match was a bit different because I went out there with Lost Boy socks. So there was a little hidden nod to Silver that nobody saw except for me and a few others in the back.
Yeah, agreed. And you made an awesome entrance video for all of this too. And the first highlights that it shows is of Jason Silver. And I really wanted to make an effort of, like, when our music hits, let's not go out right away.
Yes.
Let's let that video play for a minute so the crowd can see it and everybody can see it.
Yeah.
A little homage to him. And it was awesome. And it just felt so good.
It did.
Yeah. It felt so good so like, you guys put me in XV, I want to say around end of 2021, I want to say. And yeah, I've been a part of Excessive Violence, and I've got, some of the designs put into my gears, some of my gear and stuff. But it's always been it's always felt like I've been somewhat of the outcast of the group because I was the last member put into the group. And we've talked about it before. Like, I think the original concept of it was it's everybody that's done a death match.
Yeah, it was like we all in Excessive Violence were familiar with the death match.
And we've talked about on this podcast before that I've kind of towed the line.
Yeah.
I've never fully crossed over and had one. But I've done death matches things. But especially at the time, I had never done anything like that.
Yeah.
It was like another year before I did anything like that. So it always felt like a little like, yeah, I'm part of the group, but like, am I part of the group? Never like on, no one's ever made me feel like that. Like,
right.
To be fair, like, everyone's always made me feel welcome and stuff. This guy got me the hoodie. I was welcomed with open arms and everything, but it's just how I felt, and I couldn't shake that feeling.
One of those internal feelings.
And and when we came back, and you and I started tagging at MPX like recently for this run, they called us Excessive Violence at first,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt weird because we've had our team name. It's Parabellum, and I would never change that. I don't want to change that. I want to continue to be called Parabellum when it's just you and me.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of representing Excessive Violence. But it's always been like that was Dimitri and Sky, right? When they were a tag team, that's Excessive Violence, And it just felt weird. But like, coming out this night and teaming with you, Langley, and Sky, it's the first, and doing the whole totem pose. It's the first time I've really, really felt like a true member, and it was just a blast.
Langley's mom, Heather, posted pictures of the evolution of the totem pole, and it's weird to me because you can physically watch me go from like what everybody kind of views me as, like it's that Wesley Crane like devil character, into like excessive dad mode. Like I look way more tame now, and I don't know how to feel about that. But something I will say is that seeing the evolution of the totem pole, seeing all the members of Excessive Violence throughout the years, it was super, super cool to me. And you mentioned the entrance video that I made for us this night, and that was very interesting to say the least, because it was emotional for me to go back through and watch all the footage of Jason, and then looking at the end product, I show my wife, and my wife starts to tear up because she was like, "You gave him just as much as you gave everybody else." And I was like, "Yeah, like he is and forever will be a member of Excessive Violence, here or not physically. He will always be with us." So that was something
Once you're in, you're never out. Even in death,
Yeah.
you can't escape us.
It's kind of like a gang.
Oh, here we go. There we go. SSJ, assisted unintentionally by Tommy Prince on Gabe Wilder. Oh, what the camera doesn't catch here real quick, I'll just tell you real quick, just for the fun of it. So I don't know what happened. So when I picked up Gabe for that SSJ, you see Tommy now. When I picked him up for the SSJ, I left Tommy on the floor. And I was going to like play a moment because the idea of this match was you had to make your opponent surrender.
Right.
Right? They could tap out or they could brutally submit, basically. The idea was I was going to pick up Gabe and I was going to turn to Tommy and be like, you better surrender right now or I'm going to drop your bleeding brother on these bottle caps. And I turned around, he was gone. And then I turned back around and he's like, he's got Gabe's foot. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, put him down. So I put him down. I didn't. I gave him the pile driver and then Tommy's like, damn it. And then the camera cuts away, but what you don't see is now me and Tommy are in this weird thing where like one of us is going to do something. And I think he's just going to kind of try to come grab me. So I go for an up kick. He goes for a curb stomp. And I just up kick him right in the dick. There was a ton of this match. Peeling back the curtain a little bit. There was a ton of this match that wasn't planned.
Right.
I came up with a structure. And thankfully everybody kind of like let me do that. Because we've talked about it a little bit before. I'm a massive control freak. And these big multi-person matches are always criticized for being quote-unquote clusterfucks. So anytime we're in these, I try to make it my mission to make it as organized as possible. And everybody let me do that, and I was very, very grateful for that. It wasn't so much that we planned the whole match. It was like, hey, here's these beats that need to happen, and let's take time in between. And everybody was cool with that, whatever. But that did leave a lot of room for improvising. And I think it was all just a lot of fun. It was almost at one point everybody was just spamming finisher buttons.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I hit like 4 pile drivers in this match.
It was so you say that you're a control freak. We have talked about that before. I think to some degree I am as well. But you have zero problem taking charge, and I love that because you're also one of those people that. You get it. Like it would be a problem if you didn't get it. If you were just like, I want to do this for the sake of just doing it, then it might be an issue. But you get it and you know how to structure something to ramp as it goes and to hit that climax as big as possible. Does that make sense? Like everyone, I believe, was totally fine with your structure because like it was correct. It was exactly what it needed to be. And I think we all recognized that. But yeah, you're right. Like there was a lot of room for improvisation. And at one point it was like we were all spamming finishers, which I think helped create some of the magic in the match. Gabe Wilder got a ridiculous amount of color. And for those listening who don't know what that means, he was bleeding a lot. There was a point where I rolled into the ring, Gabe was in there, and I just looked down and I'm like, oh, yeah. Like I was slightly worried for his safety. And he was like, I need to get out of here. And I was just like, I got you, Bubba. So I give him the gut with the trash can lid and I'm like, I'm sorry, you got one to the head. And he's like, oh, fuck. And I just crack him over the head with this trash can lid and I just roll him out. Luckily, like, it wasn't anything serious. He just got really good color.
Yeah. I thought I got really good color, and I still feel like I got good color.
You did.
But then after seeing Gabe, especially going back and looking at it like on a video, like he was leaking. I thought mine was just as bad for a minute because when I first, again, if you don't want to have like some of the magic spoiled for you, maybe skip ahead a little bit. But when I first gigged, like I took Dalton to the outside immediately, and I was going to wait a while before I did it, but I was like so in the zone, I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
I instantly grabbed Dalton when the match started. We went into the crowd immediately. There's that little fence back there by merch. We started working that fence a little bit, and I had him cut me off and throw me into it, and I couldn't help it. I instantly started unwrapping my wrist tape, and I couldn't get the damn razor blade off, so it was stuck to the tape, and it made me angry. So when I finally got it off, I'd start going to town on myself, and I did what I would normally do, and I was like, that's not enough, and I did it again. So I hit myself about 20 times with this gig.
Gee.
And I got back up. I think I delivered one chop. I look over by the concessions area, and I realize I can only see out of one eye.
Oh.
Both my eyes are open, but I cannot see out of my left eye. And so I was continuously wiping away blood out of my eyes. So it probably didn't look as good as it could have. But like, I was like, oh man, that means I got really good color. And I remember at one point I looked at you and I was like, am I still going? And this is like 20 minutes after I'd already gigged. And you're like, yeah, you and Gabe are fucked.
Yeah.
And then I look at Gabe, and Gabe was like significantly way worse.
Gabe like looks almost unrecognizable
at
times. It was one of those things where like I remember talking to him and Tommy Prince before the match. They were both very nervous. Eeg. Sorry, make that noise because we just saw my health stomp to grimy Dalton Gray, and it was, it was rough. It was rough looking. But I was talking to Gabe and Tommy both before the match, and both of them were like, I've never really gigged before. So I give them like a crash course to do the like least amount of damage, have minimal scarring. And so we get out there, and I look down at Gabe after he's done his job, and I'm like, oh shit. I was really worried that he had sliced instead of just poking.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just being very, very concerned. Luckily, talked to Gabe after the fact. We all got cleaned up after the fact. But after seeing an after picture the following day, it wasn't anything super crazy, itty bitty pokes. And he just got really good color, which is awesome. There was a point after the match where I look over at Tommy Prince, and he looks like he might be struggling a little bit up top in his head. He's kind of like tapping himself in the head, and I'm like, "You good, buddy?" And he's like, "Yeah. I'm good. I'm just I'm not used to that." And I'm like, I totally get it. And I should say this. I should say nobody was required to gig. Nobody was required to bleed. That was something that was a decision made where it was like, do you want to? And everyone was like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Like we all wanted to. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. It was a fun time.
It was
a fun time. Definitely worth the watch when it releases publicly.
Yes.
I can't wait to see it in the actual high definition footage.
Yes. Yeah.
We're currently watching a screen recorded version of it, and it's fine for now. It's serviceable, but I can't wait to see everything in high definition, and just really appreciate for what it is. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I legitimately would not mind doing stuff like this much more often.
Yeah. And like you said, you haven't really like fully stepped into that deathmatch realm. I fully anticipate kidnapping you and bringing you into that world.
I'm good waiting, dude.
Yeah. Whether it be WrestleWave, whether it be Loco, whether it be Baracho, I'm going to kidnap you, and I'm bringing you.
Come down, man. They don't on the smoke, though, man.
Yeah.
Yo, WrestleWave, Loco.
Let's go.
Run it.
Two more things about this match that I want to get out of the way before we move on to our year-end awards. One is being able to work with Super Tex Brent McKenzie. That was a treat for me when I came into the Texas wrestling scene back 2017, 2018. Brent was running around with a group called DTF. Those that know who DTF is know. But I've worked every single person in that group except for one. And I never got to work with Scott McKenzie, unfortunately. But other than that, I've now worked with every active member and non-active member other than Scott McKenzie now. And that was a treat for me. It was a blast. I love Bren to death. He's a super wonderful human being. Second, Langley. Absolutely fucking murdered it in this match. He showed that he, even at just such a young age, belongs in a ring. He is going to go on to do amazing things. And I feel like we all kind of knew that just watching him grow up around the business. I mean, I posted a picture of me and Langley 7 years ago where Langley's a very small human and I look absolutely redonkulous with my blonde hair. And then we recreated it after this match. And it was very sentimental. It was very heartwarming for me. So I can't wait to see what he does because it's going to be fucking cool.
Yeah, and as this match kind of comes to the end, I'll just add to one thing. The only thing I liked more than wrestling Brett McKenzie was enjoying the Jameson with him before the show. We was having a great time outside. I won't give specific reasons, but there was I was getting a little heated during the day. It was kind of a rough day. We got to we rode down there with Cappuccino Jones and Tyler Midas and a few other people. We were kind of late to the party a little bit. Yeah. And then on the way down there, we ended up getting down there much later than we typically normally would. And we were like the last ones there. And then just some stuff, we were talking about beforehand. I ended up getting into a really sour mood. Anytime I would just get into a sour mood, I'd just go outside with Brent McKenzie, take a shot of Jameson, feel completely all right again, and it got me really in the zone before the match. And I was making myself more and more angry right before we came out because I wanted to go out there with as much intensity as possible, and it definitely worked. So
I feel like that's something that you don't see a whole lot in modern wrestling.
Yeah.
Is just that chill brotherhood, take a couple shots, drink a little bit in the back. And no, we're not talking about getting absolutely trashed or wasted, but
and that's usually not even my thing, but just for this one night, I was kind of just, feeling it a little bit.
Yeah, let loose a little bit. It's one of those things that I absolutely love when I get to see it, when I get to be part of it. I absolutely love it because it brings me back to the times, growing up around the business, watching guys like Brent Albright, guys like Brandon Groom when he was much younger, and guys like my dad and that kind of thing. It's very special, and you don't see it a whole lot. I think nowadays more guys play video games in the back than anything else. But
I'm not gonna say anything negative about that. I love video.
No, I love video games as well. That is something that I love as well. However, being able to let loose a little bit in the back with the boys is always something that I'll treasure forever.
For sure.
But we have our year-end awards that we're going to talk about.
Yes, we do, because this is the time of the year where everybody does, the special one. The Oakland fan does their year-end awards, and I was going to make us a joke and just completely not even say anything about Oakland fan, and you'd be like, we had this just out of the blue idea for no reason at all.
No, so I'll come right out and say it. We looked at the Oakland Fan Year-End Awards, and I hate to say this, maybe it's a lack of marketing on these guys' parts, or maybe it's just I'm not fucking out there enough. But after looking at the Oakland Fan Year-End Awards, I had so many questions because I didn't know 90% of the people on the lists. I knew a couple of them, but I didn't know the majority of them.
Yes, for sure. And before we get into this, before we do, let me preface this by saying three things. Number one, what we're about to do is just our opinions.
Right.
If you don't like Oakland Fan and you don't like what they do and you don't like the names that you see on there, completely fine.
Yep.
You could do like me, and you don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
You don't have to acknowledge it. You don't have to let it bother you at all. I hadn't looked at Oakland Fan at all. It had been a few days since the year-end awards, came out, and somebody had mentioned it on the car ride, and I made a joke out of it, and I was like, I bet you $20 that neither one of our matches are on there.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, they weren't.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll bet you another 10 that our feud is not on there for feud of the year. Spoiler alert, they weren't.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything? Absolutely not.
No.
Does that mean anybody's opinion is wrong? Absolutely not.
No.
So if you don't like it, that's completely fine. You don't have to acknowledge it. Don't be a dick about it, obviously. Just go about your life because it doesn't affect you at all.
Right.
On the same side of that, if you are somebody who is excited about it, if if this motivates you, or if you're proud of being, put on a list or put on a poll, more power to you.
Yeah.
I say go for it.
Run with it.
Absolutely. I was definitely more into it my first few years, too. And, and I'm not ashamed of that either. I'm proud of everything that I did earlier on. Right now, I'm not at a point where I even care.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit because I disagree, but I disagreed last year and the year before that.
Sure.
So my life doesn't change whether I'm nominated for something or if I'm on a list or not. So my life doesn't change, but it did make us want to kind of like give our takes a little bit, on what we think. But I don't want to do it straight on Local Fan because I want them to have their own thing. That's them, whatever, cool. So we made our own.
Yeah. So and before we like kind of get into this wasn't like one of the things where it's like we took the categories and we're like, this is this is like we gave ourselves options.
Yeah.
Like we did it just as Oklahoma Fan would, and we gave options.
Yes. One thing that's going to be different about this than it is for Oklahoma Fan 2 is that on Oklahoma Fan, it's anybody can vote.
Yeah.
And that's great. I think that's great. The problem is that means that one person can just go and send it to everybody. Excuse me. Oh God, excuse me. One person can take the link, send it to all their family and friends, and just dominate the polls, and maybe not be the most deserving of it.
Sure.
Not saying anybody that has done that in particular. I'm just saying that's a thing that can be done.
Yeah.
So in order to keep this fair, we're going to send this to a few selected people who have unbiased opinions.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a real good judgment call of the winners of these categories. And it's not just going to be our friends either.
No.
It's going to be, and it's not just going to be wrestlers. We got a wide range of different kinds of people in the wrestling world that we're going to be sending this to. So we have all different kinds of opinions and takes as well.
Yes. Now, as we go through this, I'm actually going to be filling out the form.
I am too.
So that you're going to hear my takes.
Yes. We're going to go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so like I said, we'll be sending this to maybe a few other wrestlers. I believe you and I will be the only wrestlers on the list, maybe, on some of these categories, that will also be casting votes because this is our podcast and it is our poll and we get a fucking say.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else that we send this to will be anybody that's on the list. I don't think, at least. I might have to go back and check it out. But
There might be one or two, but it's not like... It's not going to be like, we're sending this to all of our friends who we...
Yeah. So, I guess... Let's just go through the list, and we can talk about that. We can talk about that later. I got to do my email.
I just filled all of my information out. I'm looking at the first category now, which when I put this together, because you sent me like your categories and lists, I added what I thought what I would have added, and even added a couple categories as well. But when I did this, I structured it in a way so that when you get to the end of it, I feel like everybody's looking for like, who's wrestler of the year, right? Yeah, like that's everybody's fucking meat and potatoes. And I made sure to put that at the very end. Yes, you got to go through the whole thing to get to wrestler of the year. So we're starting off though with promotion of the year. We talked about this. There's like maybe four, right? That like have a strong hold on the Oklahoma independent wrestling scene.
Mm-hmm.
So, the options we have are Core Professional Wrestling, Texoma Pro, which I felt interesting putting that on there because when I worked for Texoma, they were in Texas. They weren't yet in Oklahoma. So that was interesting for me. But now that they're in the Ardmore area, here they are in Oklahoma. Let's make their presence known. So Texoma Pro. You got This Is Wrestling. You got UWO, or Unified Wrestling Oklahoma. You got UWE, United Wrestling Entertainment. And you have Wrestling for a Cause.
Yeah. I think all of these promotions, I mean, there's a lot of different promotions that are not on here.
Right.
And there is another thing where if somebody doesn't want to pick any of these, they can pick other and fill in their own. But we talked about it a little bit. We think that these are the main promotions that do have a certain thing about themselves that no other promotion has.
Yeah.
They occupy their own little corner. And we could go through and talk about which each of these promotions do differently, better than the rest, whatever. Don't need to do all that, I don't think. But we did feel like we didn't want to flood it with just every single promotion.
Right.
So we went with these 6 because we do think these 6 are definitely some of the top players in the game. So I'm voting for Wrestling for a Cause, by the way.
I am as well. Now, I will say that I was torn in my vote between This Is Wrestling and Wrestling for a Cause. And the only reason I was torn in that vote is because This Is Wrestling has paired up with Spaded and Jaded a time or two for the Bazaar events. And it is undoubtable that those Bazaar events pull in crowds that Oklahoma does not see very often.
Yeah. So my reasoning is actually like, so WFC always wins this on anybody's ballot every year. And my reasoning for voting for them is not the same reason as everybody else probably votes for them. My reasoning for voting for WFC is because WFC recently has been doing big things that you don't see promotions doing.
Right.
Like with the Extrava Slams every year, bringing it in and giving that, like putting on a true independent wrestling show that can kind of like expand a little bit to more general audiences.
Yeah.
Bringing in guys like Heath Slater this past one, sometimes like EC3, Chris Bay, all these guys that are on TV. I think those shows alone, doing those shows annually too, not just doing it a one and done, but making those an annual thing to look forward to every single year is the reason why I put WC.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Next, we have the event of the year, which this is not something that you'll see on Oklafan. This isn't something you'll see on most polls, but I feel like that's a conversation we have in car rides is like, what event have you been on or what event have you seen that was just like, oh yeah, like that was fucking awesome.
Yeah. So we got 10 options here. So these are like what you and I personally felt between the two of us.
Right.
We each had our own separate picks where we had a lot of the same picks, but we had some of our own separate picks too as well, and we just put them all together.
Yes.
Because let me go on and also preface this by saying I've never worked for Texoma.
Okay.
I've never been to Texoma. I don't know anybody at Texoma, so I don't know anything about them. But you do.
I have to kind of expand on that a little bit.
Okay.
And say I accidentally worked for Texoma when I did it. It was back in like 2017, 2018 when I was breaking into that Texas scene, and I went for a cheeseburger seminar.
Yeah.
I was doing a seminar and I wanted to learn a little bit more from cheeseburger. So I did the seminar. It was great, super knowledgeable. The dude is a phenomenal in-ring worker. If you don't know who Cheeseburger is, what the fuck are you doing? Go look up Cheeseburger. But I remember being there that day and the promoter looked right at me and he was like, look, don't take this the wrong way. We're just not looking at you.
Mm.
Like, we need you to go put those guys over. And it was the Pillars of Destiny, Paul Titan, and I'm drawing a blank on his partner's name, but they're giant behemoths of men. They needed a couple small guys to go in there and bub their asses off for them. So that's what we did. And shortly after that, I remember scrolling on YouTube, and I see a video pop up and it says Wesley Crane debuts for Texoma Pro, and I was like, what? Like what? I thought what? And I've never worked for Texoma since.
Oh gosh.
It was just one of those like super weird one-off accidental bookings.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's one of those things that you've had your fingers in before. Some of our friends have worked there.
Yep.
Same on the other hand, like, you didn't work for Core at all last year.
Nope.
Or I guess this year, but I did. So I had more of a take on those than you did. So this is a very wide range. So we have, the options are the 13th anniversary show for WFC. We have Texoma Pro Uncharted Territory.
Yep.
We have WFC Slams-a-Palooza. We had This Is Wrestling Spaded and Jaded Summer Bazaar, where you faced off with Sky de la Cremosa in the main event.
Yep.
Before being
Decimated by Riker.
Yeah. We have Core Pro Wrestling Summer Send-Off. That was the last show Core has done, actually. That was end of May. And Core hasn't had a show since then. Hopefully, they'll be back very soon, though. We had WFC Last Stop. It was the go-home show before the anniversary show. It culminated with a cage match between Rhett and Alex Royal.
Yep.
We had a This Is Wrestling Thanksgiving Bash. There was just this previous TIW show.
Yep.
Where STF had their last match.
Okay.
So, there we go. We had WFC Welcome to the Property. JTG was on this show, along with Cappuccino Jones. It was actually the first show after the anniversary show. So WFC's been on a kind of a string recently of really good shows.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah. We have Showdown 14, UWE. UWE always packs the house for Showdown.
Mm-hmm.
Tahlequah, man, they always show up. Doesn't matter who's wrestling, doesn't matter what's going on. They always show up.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to UWE. Then we got WFC Extravaslamza 3. Like I said earlier, it's the big show where they bring in all the big names and we pack the house and it's an annual thing and you always look forward to it.
Yeah, you had Chris Bay, you had Ken Anderson, you had Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you had Heath Slater. Like, it was a stacked card.
Yeah, Godfather.
Yeah.
Bear Brown was there. It was a great night. It was stacked. It was a great night. So, what are you voting for on this?
So,
this is a tough one.
It is. It's a very tough one. Now, what's the criteria here? Like, what are we really like looking at? Are we looking at top to bottom, best event? Just like, let's run that shit back, or are we looking at the draw that it brought, or are we like, what are the?
I guess it could be a little bit of both of those things, and also just how did it make you feel at the end? You know, like, were you in the card going, that was a damn good show tonight? You know, because from top to, and like, how was the card throughout the night? You know, I guess it's just based on your own how you personally feel about it.
So there are two of them that stand out to me, and
Okay.
and again, this is like a soul, like, personal thing. The 13th anniversary for WFC, I felt amazing after that. It was a top to bottom, just wonderful time. And the same thing with the This Is Wrestling Spaded and Jaded Summer Bazaar. Top to bottom, I felt fantastic. After the fact, I felt great. I got to wrestle Sky, and then I was decimated by Riker, and it was one of those things that like nobody really saw coming. After the event, I mean, there was a massive crowd for that event. I felt really good about both of those events. So I mean, I'm torn between those two. Extravaslamza 3 was also really good. However, I mean, I wasn't super hot about my performance that night. So, you know, but I think I've got to give it to WFC's anniversary, the 13th.
Okay, so we have our first differ here. So I wanted to pick the 13th anniversary show too, as well as Core Summer Send-Off.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with those is I'm attaching the show to my match and my performance, and I'm not looking at the show as a whole.
Yeah.
You know? So detaching myself from that, I'm going to go with This Is Wrestling Spaded and Jaded Summer Bazaar, because I watched a lot of that show as well as performed on it. And that show was entertaining. The crowd showed up. The crowd was hot from start to finish. It was a good night. Everybody made money too. Like, that was just and it was like, the reason why I'm going for that, I think, above everything else is because from start to finish, not just the show, but the day was fun.
Yeah.
We had fun all day long. You know, putting my match together wasn't stressful. It was fun. The match was great. We got to see Riley and Titan for the first time as a tag team come out, do an awesome entrance. You had a battle royal to start the show off, which I know people kind of like hate being in battle royals and stuff. Those are some people's favorite matches to watch.
Yep.
So, and the right guy won that night too. And it ended up paying off at the end of the night with the cash in on you. Oklahoma got to see Sky.
Yeah.
Like, that was a good night. So I think that was my favorite show of the year.
Yeah. And you said that crowd showed up, and I'll even argue that I would say the majority of that crowd probably wasn't a wrestling crowd.
Yeah.
They were just there for the event
Yeah.
that was going on, that Spade and Jader was putting on, and they stayed for the event to just kind of see what the fuck was going on.
Dude, that could be a 50-50, man, because they could show up and be like, oh, well, this sucks. This is pro wrestling. It's everything we've heard about pro wrestling. We don't want to watch this now. Why are we here? We're here for the tattoos and the cars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why is our wrestling ring up now? Maybe I'll watch something. Oh, that sucked. I don't want to watch that. This is fake, you know? Or they could do what they did and be like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Fucking there for it.
Yeah. Another one, I wanted to, you know, obviously Extravaganza 3, had all the names, had my dream match that night. It was a good time. And there's a show that's not on here on this list that I want to just give a quick shout out to because I forgot to think about it when we were going to have this list. I want to give a shout out to Ray for Elote,
Okay.
for Cinco de Mayo. Those, the 2-day event that he puts on is so fun. It is so fun, and I have to put the least amount of thought into anything. I get to go out there and just dance. I wrestle with like a drink in my hand, and it's some of the funnest stuff I ever get to do. And those shows always have great crowds as well, especially later into the night. Those things are so fun to just be around.
I feel like Elote doesn't get some of the love it deserves. It is in no way a super serious wrestling promotion. It is like it's all for fucking shits and giggles. It's all just everybody having a good time cutting up. If you haven't seen or been to an Elote show, definitely go check it out. If you want to know more about Elote, check out Logan Walsher's documentary on it called Barroom Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. It's phenomenal, and it's a really good time.
So like I said, especially during those Cinco de Mayo shows, those get crazy. They're a lot of fun. All right, next up we have Moment of the Year. So another category that, you know, we kind of made for ourselves.
Yep.
So we talked about in particular shows standing out. What's harder to do than that is having one moment on a show stand out, not just for the show, but for the year.
Everybody talks about like WWE's like WrestleMania moments.
Yes.
But I feel like it's so much harder to have one moment, like you said, out of the year, not even just on that one show, but out of the year that makes people go, that was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have Subject to Death, defeat Simply the Future. Normally when STF come back and they reunite, it's usually a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You expect them to do big things. But, you know, this was a one-time thing. They came back for one time and nobody expected them to win, or expected them to lose, I should say. And Derek James and Kate Fight pulled it off. And yeah, seemingly have put STF to bed.
Yeah.
For good. No more STF.
No more STF.
I'm not a fan. Fight us, fuckers.
Fight us.
We have Nathan Estrada wins the core championship only to lose it right away. Now, here I'm gonna go a little bit more in depth about this. So, Logan Knight actually won a contract for a championship match. Logan Knight was also part of the regime. And Nathan Estrada defeated current heavyweight champion Merck for the heavyweight title. And being the leader of the regime and the god-awful person he is, forced Logan Knight to give up his contract himself and had him held down while he watched him cash in and take his title right back 5 minutes later. So, way to fumble the bag, Nathan. Riley Grin turns on Tommy Dean and joins history in the making. This had a little bit to it. It had a little bit of mustard on it. It did. Riley Grin in his first Ryder Cup. I believe this was like to cap off his first full year too. Like this was him, like in the last moments of his first rookie year. You know, going to the finals of the Ryder Cup. Me doing the same, trying to get to you.
Yeah.
After you took my title, you bastard. And I was really proud to be in there with Riley Grin. And then all of a sudden, that Creed hits, and then you guys come out. I don't know what you're doing out there, but you still got some explaining to do, sir. Yeah, so we'll talk about that off screen.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
You guys come out there, Riley Grin and me decide we're gonna go back to back and fight you guys off, but then all of a sudden he hit the ropes and didn't stop. He just kept coming.
Went right through you.
Went right through me, hit me with a spear, pinned me 1, 2, 3, and became the first rookie to ever win the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. In fact, we'll get into it right next, because the next big moment of the year was Riley Grin cashing in the Ryder Cup trophy to beat me for the Hometown Heroes Championship after you and I went out there and wrestled for 20 minutes.
Yeah. So you beat me.
Yeah. Because it all comes full circle. And becoming the youngest to ever win the Hometown Heroes Championship.
Yeah.
Only after 1 year of WFC.
Crazy.
Yeah, big things. Big things. Next up, we mentioned this earlier.
Yep.
Riker cashes in a Battle Royal win to beat you for the TIW Championship, despite already being the number 1 contender.
Yeah.
So he already had a match with you lined up at the next show.
Right.
But this was at the Spaded and Jaded Summer Bazaar.
Yeah.
And earlier in the night, he won a Battle Royal for a championship match anytime, anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't need to be in that match.
No.
Didn't need it at all. But he didn't want to wait.
Yeah. Impatient bastard.
Yeah, he was already the number 1 contender. And he decided he was entering the Rumble and he was taking the title home that night.
Yes.
We have Cappuccino Jones throws Rhett James off the stage through a table. So at Core Pro Wrestling, there is a stage.
Yep.
It's my favorite. It's probably my favorite venue to wrestle in because of the way it's laid out.
Okay.
And Rhett James and Cappuccino Jones had an I Quit match at the anniversary show back in January. And the finish of this match saw Cappuccino Jones hoist Rhett onto his shoulders, take him to the edge of the stage, and he was going to throw him off if he didn't quit. Rhett James then said, "I quit." And then, just, not to blue ball the audience, he tossed him off the stage anyways. Red goes through the announce table. It was a great moment for everybody. It was kind of a holy shit moment for everybody that night. All right. We have Wesley Crane hits a second rope Canadian Destroyer on Tommy Dean at the 13th anniversary show.
Yeah.
This sounds like something I would submit.
Yeah.
But I did not.
Nope.
This was
a me thing.
So I'll let you take it.
And I was torn between this and the pile driver through the table.
Right.
Both of those moments I still hear about. I still hear people going like, dude, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Which is why it made the list. The fact that people are still talking about it, the fact that people who had never been to a wrestling show before was like, that was insane. That makes me feel that this deserves to be on that list. Like, I don't care. It didn't even have to be with me. Like, you could have done this with anybody. It could have been any two people. We see Canadian Destroyers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do you see one elevated like that. And that was a talk you and I had going into the match, was like, we've made sure to somehow, some way sneak a Canadian Destroyer into almost every match.
And it's never a regular one.
No.
It's always got to be something like a slingshot over the top, some kind of springboard, some kind of up and over. It's always different every time. And we never do a regular one.
And I remember coming to you, was like, okay, we got to put it in there somewhere.
We actually forgot to, if you don't remember, it was the one thing we planned to do before that day hit. And then the day hit, and we went and planned the whole match, and we forgot about it. And we had to add it in like 20 minutes before the match. So it was like, where's a good spot we could fit this?
But it was one of those things where it's like, we've done all these other variations, like how to top it. And the only way we could top it is literally
from the top.
Yeah, from the top. Like, it was one of those things that it had to happen.
Yeah. All right, we got Tommy Dean finally captures the Hometown Heroes Championship. This was a long story in the making. It was about, I think in the time they were saying it was 7 years in the making. I think it was like 5.5. But basically, me and Alex Royal had a tables match in 2018 for the Hometown Heroes Championship. That was back when I looked like shit, dressed like shit, talked like shit. The only thing I was good at was wrestling. And it was a story that was thrown together relatively quickly. The story wasn't quick, but it was kind of put together out of the blue.
Yeah.
And we ended up having match of the year. I lost that match, though. And I had several matches for the Hometown Heroes Championship after that, too. I was never able to get it. And then we had the moment where you turned on me.
Yep.
And we had a match, and I don't remember how we made it make sense. I know we did. We did something to make it make sense. But basically, you and I, in the middle of our feud, kind of put a halt, went off and did our own separate thing. And me and Alex Roll had like a little mini feud within your and I's feud. And that led to Slamsapalooza earlier this year, the first ever walk through your front door match.
Yep.
And it culminated with me finally beating Alex Roll on the bright lights on the big stage.
Arguably one of the coolest setups for a match.
Yeah.
Like I know that like even I cringe at the name for that match, but like you come out and we'll talk a little bit about this or later in the thing as well, but like you come out, you have this crazy just badass entrance.
Yeah.
Alex comes out, he has the fucking old school HTH belt, he's got the new HTH belt. It was one of the coolest setups for a match that I had seen on an indie level in quite some time.
Yeah, it was definitely in the moment right there. But that brings us to our last option. And that's Dutch Hagen retires.
Yeah.
Nobody knew this until the day of.
Wild.
Crazy. Dutch Hagen, been around for a long time. The longest active member of the WFC roster.
Yep.
I have had the privilege. How you were talking about earlier, how like it's a privilege to be in the ring with certain guys. I don't feel that way about too many people, like of the older generation.
Yeah.
Dutch is one of them.
Yes.
Dutch is amazing. I don't like. It's not just one of those things you say to be nice.
No.
Like Dutch is actually a fucking beast.
Yes.
And I am so happy that I got to work about 56 different tag matches with him. I never got to have one with one-on-one, but that I don't care, man. The first time I ever got to work with Dutch was at the first OKX in the Chester Memorial Battle Royal. Yeah, it came down to me and him. It was awesome. We got to do a lot of tag stuff together with me and Reed versus him and Richie. Loads of fun. Loved working with Dutch. Dutch is awesome. Dutch is the man.
Yes, absolutely. Looking at all these options, it's really difficult for me to narrow it down to one because all of these moments were exactly what this whole category is about. These were all moments that we're going to remember for a long time. These are all very good contenders for Moment of the Year.
There was another thing that I debated putting on here, but it wasn't. It didn't feel like it met the criteria as well. We could have easily put Cappuccino Jones becomes a WWE ID prospect on here.
Yeah,
but that just feels a little different than what this list is actually about. So with that being said, I'm gonna go for Riley Green cashes in the Ryder Cup to win the HDH title. And I'll go a little bit more as to why when we get to some of these other categories. But you and I went out there. We had special entrances.
Yep.
We had this banger match.
Yep.
Different looks. And we were out there forever.
Yeah.
All these crazy moments. And it finally ended. And then after a year of on-screen hatred, we hug it out at the very end. Everybody thinks all is in dandy, and then he comes out, no music, no nothing, spears me, cashes in right there. Everybody was in shock. They couldn't believe it, and it was a big moment for me.
Again, I'm torn here. I'm torn between you capturing the HDH championship and then Riley cashing in to win the HTH championship. I think the chase you had for that title, it was great to see you finally like hold it up into the air. Like, I fucking got this. That was something really, really cool to see. However, Riley just being a year into this and holding, without a doubt, the most prestigious title in Oklahoma. Absolutely bonkers.
Also, it was very much unexpected because he had already wrestled earlier in the night.
Yeah.
And he lost.
He lost.
He lost earlier in the night, so nobody expected him coming out.
I guess with that being said, I have to go in with him cashing in the Ryder Cup.
I have to.
It's only right. Which brings us to something that I kind of mentioned a little earlier, best entrance of the year. There were some this year that were just banger.
Yeah. And it's weird because, you see things like that on TV. So when you go to your local show, 99% of the time, you don't get that. Now, you might get a little something. You might wear a little something cool. Maybe you do a song change, whatever. But to have a full-blown, like, just presentation for an entrance for something special.
To make it a spectacle.
Yeah. It shows you put some effort in.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think all of these on this list did that except for one. There's one on this list that I don't think did that, but it was because it was the very first time we got to see it.
Yes, and I know what you're talking about, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. But first off, we've got Alex Royal at WFC's Last Stop.
Yes, he had, he had people coming out with candles, dressed up and dressed in white.
Mm-hmm.
He had a throne to sit on. Man,
Dude made an entire show out of his entrance.
yes. The cage was there too.
Yeah, so it was a big deal. It was a big special thing. You got my entrance, Wesley Crane, WFC anniversary show, coming out as the Sheet Ghost, only to rip it away and you see the skinned face with the devil horns protruding out. If you go back and watch that, something that it was on my mind when I was doing it, but I didn't say anything to anyone. And I wanted to see if anybody else would notice. That mask looks like you.
Does it really?
It looks like you.
Oh,
If
what?
you were to shave your face, it looks like you, dude.
I had no idea.
And I did that.
I'm fighting this out right now.
I did that for a specific reason.
How do you do that?
I found that mask and I was just like, that'll work. And then I took red and black and dry brushed it to give it a little bit more depth, a little bit more look. And yeah, when it was all said and done, I remember like strapping it to my face, and Bobby goes, "That looks like Tommy." I go, "Fuck yeah!"
So you even do that? What? Damn.
Then you got Subject to Death, TIW Thanksgiving Bash.
Yep. You weren't there for this one.
I was not there. Yeah.
They basically came out dressed for a funeral. They had a presentation, the death of STF before they even come out. They had an obituary and everything, and I just thought this deserved to be on this list because I like it when people put in effort, and I just like it when things are thought out. And
Yeah.
it wasn't on a big stage. It wasn't like something super special effect or anything like that. It was very simple for Derek and Cade, and yeah, I just appreciated it.
Next, you have Divinium. Yes, Heighten Yin and Riley Grin at TIW Spade and Jaded Summer Bazaar.
This is what I was talking about, where they didn't really do anything super special that they don't already do now in Texas, with an exception of Riley's streamers that he always just accidentally sets off, apparently. But this is the first time these two got the tag, and they came out very hyped,
Yeah.
their own unique looks, but still looking like a team as well. They did the streamer thing. Like, Riley throws his arms out and streamers just go everywhere. He looked like Spider-Man jizzing. No, it's one of those things you look at and like, that was fucking cool. And it's always stuck with me.
If you haven't seen Divinium's entrance, like, it's probably my favorite tag entrance on the indie scene right now.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, like, I would say that you and I don't have like a crazy tag team entrance. Like, we just come out, we're ready to fucking fight.
Yeah.
We have our poses at the corner. We have our little hard cam pose, but like Divinium makes an entire spectacle of their entrance every time they come out. They're super hype. They've got the cool presentation. They have their own unique looks. If you haven't seen their entrance, go check them out on social media, because they have clips of it on there. It's seriously just fucking awesome. Next, we have your entrance at WFC Slamsapalooza.
Yes. Where I had a live band
Yeah.
play my theme song, Play Me to the Ring. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified because I had thought of this idea a few months prior, and I had reached out to somebody, I won't say who, I reached out to somebody because he was the only person I knew in a band. And he was another worker too. So I talked to him and he agreed to do it. And then he sent me some of his stuff. And I'm not going to say what his stuff that he sent me was bad, but it wasn't what I was looking for.
Right.
So I was a little worried. But then he said he couldn't do it and he recommended somebody else. And when I reached out to them, I realized I'd heard of them before. They had actually filmed a music video. This is I'm talking about Le Batty House.
Yeah.
This is a local independent rock band, and they are wrestling fans. And they have a song called "Cause That's the Bottom Line," and they actually filmed that at the old Core Training Center. And I was actually supposed to be in that music video, and I'd forgotten about it until like I had to go to work and I couldn't be there. And I hadn't thought about it, and I hadn't put two and two together yet until I reached out to them. I was like, holy shit, I know these people actually.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we know you too. We watched you wrestle. And I'm like, holy shit, this works out. And then I went and listened to some of their music, and I was like, okay, this is pretty good. I was still worried because my song is a cover of a very popular song, right? It is a rock version of Astronaut in the Ocean. And Astronaut in the Ocean is it's a slow, like hip hop song, has a little bit of a fast part in the middle of it, but it's not, it's not what you would normally use for entrance music. I use a rock version of it, which means it's probably harder to learn for an indie band to do. So I was very, very worried. When they showed up that day, they was like, we've been trying for 5 weeks to get this song, and we just got it all the way through from start to finish like 2 days ago. And I'm like, oh no.
But they absolutely slaughtered.
Yes,
dude. Like,
yes. I think the only thing that didn't go right was like I think the microphone wasn't up all the way for like the first 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But that was it.
But they absolutely killed it. And since then, I'll say I've continued to follow this band. I continued to listen to their music. They made a fan out of me that night.
Yeah. It got me in the mood. I came out. I was on a stage. I got to walk through the band to the ring. There was doors surrounding, and I just start chunking doors in the ring, and I'm just ready to fight. Oh my God! Excuse me, Jesus Christ! It's the goddamn Welches. It's the Welches. But it got me in the mood to fight, and I was ready to go. I was also like, I was looking good at the time too, because I was in the middle of the 75 hard.
Yeah.
So like, I was like in shape, and I was, man, it was the payoff to a great story. But yeah, definitely my favorite entrance I've ever done.
So you pointed out that Divinium, it was the first time that we had seen their entrance.
Yes.
I didn't think that's who you were talking about. I was talking about Riker, Spaded Jaded TIW's 420 Bazaar. Because this is the first time that we had seen Riker come out as the cutthroat king that we see today.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah.
It was one of those things. And the reason that it landed on this list, at least for me, was when Riker stepped out of that curtain and like he had the heavy music going on. He's got his crazy wet hair. He's got the crown, the cloak, all this. Everybody was speechless. Like nobody made a noise. Everybody, like, you look around and everybody's jaw was on the floor. You knew that this man was coming out to fucking kill someone.
Yeah.
So that's why it landed on this list for me. It wasn't one of those like, oh my gosh, that was such a cool entrance. But like, it was one of those like, you were mesmerized watching this band come out.
Yeah.
However,
I'm voting for myself.
I also have to keep this to you. I think top to bottom, between the band, between the fact that you came out and you were cut, you looked great. I gotta give it to you.
All right. Here's another category that we decided to do for ourselves.
Yes.
Promo up a year.
Yeah.
So being able to talk is almost just as important as being able to wrestle.
Yes.
In some situations, probably even more.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this time and time again. You see a guy come in, whether that be on the independent scene or whether that be in WWE, and they may not be the best in-ring wrestler, but if they can talk on the mic, if they got the gift of gab, they can captivate your attention.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out that there is a distinct difference between a 20-minute promo that starts the show and you're just like, oh my God, stop fucking talking, and someone who cuts a 30-minute promo and it doesn't feel like a 30-minute promo because they're that damn good.
Yeah. Shout out to The Rock on X. Don't call him Pharaoh. Call him shithead. I can listen to The Rock talk forever.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, we have 6 options here. We have Alex Royal's Mr. Anderson promo for Extravaganza. Now, I didn't really specify which one because he basically did the same promo twice.
Yep.
He did one promo to put online, and then he did the same promo face-to-face with Mr. Anderson to start his match.
Yes.
I didn't really specify which one was which, but I tend to lean more towards the in-ring one.
Yeah.
We have Seth the Pimp and Mr. Nasty, Gen Z vocab.
This is one of my favorite promos I've ever seen. I don't even want to say this year, but it's one of my favorite promos to date, period.
I want to put so many different promos from these two on here, but I can't. So I'm basically using this one because it is the best one, but I'm using this one to summarize all their promos. If you haven't kept up with the Seth and Nasty story, you're missing out on gold.
This is such, it's so bittersweet for me because I'm one of these people that like, I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
And I know that eventually it has to. And I'm not saying that that's coming anytime soon. I'm not saying it's coming even within the next year. But I know that at some point it does have to end. And I don't want it to because it's so fucking entertaining.
It's so good, dude. You can see it. Like, oh, man, when they first started, when it was like Seth in training, and he's like, go bring me a hoe. And then he pulls out a real gardening tool. And then he's like, no, I said, he slaps him and says, go give me some bitches. And then Seth just runs away, even though he drove up.
Left his car.
This most recent one that they did, Pimp's Giving.
Oh my God.
So good, dude. But Gen Z vocab, it's Seth the Pimp teaching Mr. Nasty basically a bunch of Gen Z words.
Yeah.
Some of these I don't even know the name of. You know, I mean, I'm not Gen Z, so that makes sense. But like, he's sitting there explaining, oh, it's so good. If you haven't watched it, just go find it, dude. Go find it. It's so good.
I'll make sure to link it in the YouTube as for this video, just because it is one of those promos that like it's ridiculously funny.
It's so funny, dude. So funny. Next up, another Mr. Nasty promo. This time, just by himself, more tamed Mr. Nasty. The anniversary show versus Tim Rockwell promo that he did. This was in response to Tim, and this promo has kind of everything in it. When it starts off, it's very funny, but then it gets very serious, and he starts talking less like Mr. Nasty, and he starts talking more like the person that you and I know backstage.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, sometimes is still just Mr. Nasty. But sometimes we get to see him just be like a normal person, and it kind of translates into that, and it feels real, and it makes you feel a bunch of different emotions throughout it. And we were watching it, and I loved this promo. Yeah, I love this promo, man. It just shows Nasty's range too. Like we've talked about this before. When people talk about the best talker in Oklahoma, it's pretty cut and dry. 99% of people pick Alex Royal, and I'm not gonna sit here and disagree. Yeah, I don't think anybody talks like Alex Royal does, but when it comes to who cuts the best promos, I think Mr. Nasty's name should be at least thrown in there.
Oh, for sure.
He's
really talented.
Multi-talented. He'd cut any kind of promo you need him to also.
Yeah, like you said, this promo had everything. And it had the comedy that we're used to seeing from Nasty, but he also dropped it into a serious tone.
Yeah. Next up, Riley Graham, after winning the HDH, he went backstage outside and he cut his own promo.
Yep.
And I remember watching it, and I'm like, it made me angrier because I realized it was on me, and I'm like, this is really fucking good. And it was one of those ones where it's like there's no character, it's just him, raw emotion pouring out, and it was, I don't know how to explain it. It's none of I don't even know, dude. It's just like, it wasn't any one thing in particular he said. It felt like he truly believed everything he was saying, and it made me believe everything he was saying. Yeah. And I was the motherfucker it was on. He was talking shit about me.
It was a promo that like I didn't expect to get out of him.
Yeah.
This early.
Yeah. It's again, we talk about it because he's so young.
Yeah.
You know, he's only in his second year, you know.
He's just entering his second.
Yeah. So like he's still learning all these
baby.
things, and he doesn't do promos.
No.
You know, he's cut some promos here and there, and he's cut some good stuff, but he's never anytime we practice like serious promos, he wasn't really, you know, good at it or anything. And this just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I didn't know he did this either until I saw it online. It just cooked, as the kids say. It cooked.
Next, we have my promo. It's the anniversary show promo against you. Now,
I nominated this one as opposed to you.
right.
And I don't know if you had an in particular one you were thinking of when I mentioned it.
No.
The one I'm picturing is the last one you did. So I did my promo where I was like, we've been fighting for so long, I don't even remember how it started.
Yeah.
The one that you did in response to that is the one I pictured for this.
Which is where I detail how it started, why it started, why we are where we are. And that promo essentially, like I was very angry cutting that promo because throughout the entirety of our story, throughout the entirety of our feud, I felt like Spider-Man trying to stop the fucking train.
Yeah.
Like everybody kept trying to change what the story was about. Everybody kept trying to say that we hated each other. Everybody kept trying to say that like it was all about hatred. And that was the furthest thing from what the story was. The story was, I felt personally that you had let yourself slip. You claimed to be untouchable. You claimed to be the best fucking guy in the ring. And I felt that you weren't. You were lying because I had seen what you're capable of, and I wanted to pull that out of you. And we did get to see, like, you went through 75 hard. You did that, all that, like, that happened. And then I caught you slipping. And so I still wasn't pleased even after I took the HTH title from you. And I had to bring that vicious, violent side out of you, which is why in the last match we had, you pile drive me through a table. You pile drive me from the second rope. Like, it looks like you're trying to murder me. And that's what I wanted to pull out of you that whole time, that unstoppable force that I knew was inside you.
And we had to fight tooth and nail for everything we wanted in that match too.
Yeah.
From start to finish, man. Like a month prior to that, not even a month, maybe just like a few weeks prior to that, we were not happy with how that match was supposed to end.
No.
I won't say what was supposed to happen, or I won't mention any names, because love everybody involved. But what was supposed to happen, I was not happy with.
Right.
And we made it very known that we were not happy with where that was going.
Yeah.
So, but we ended up getting what we wanted at the end, and everything worked. It ended up being one of my favorite matches ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that promo you did was awesome. Another, like, again, I'll say it just like Mr. Nasty, when it comes to who talks the best, I don't think you get enough credit. I think you're in that conversation of who talks the best.
I have a very interesting standpoint on it because most of the time I do produced promos. There's a camera, there's effects going on, there's some sort of shock value somewhere in there. It's very produced most of the time. However, when I turned on you, I made it a point to show and to prove that I can hold my own in the ring, cutting a promo with anyone.
Yeah.
I turned on you and I cut the promo about why I was turning on you. And I was basically like this, I introduced history in the making. I was like, this isn't your cartel. This isn't a band of villains. This is, wolves surrounding themselves with other wolves. This is history in the making. And the only reason I personally didn't, because that is one of my favorite promos I've ever cut. The only reason I didn't put it on this list is because I can't get past the fact that the entire time I'm trying to cut this fucking promo, there are a couple jackasses in the background stomping the entire time. And I just remember sitting in that ring and holding the microphone, and I was squeezing the microphone so tight that all of my fingers and my knuckles were a different shade of white than the rest of my hand. But to cap off this.
Yeah, this
kind
is
of
so.
story.
This is a weird one.
Yeah,
Because when I was thinking about this, I made a personal decision not to include this one, and
I'm the one
decided to put it on here.
I'm the one that
I didn't say don't put it on there. I just, when I was alone, like putting my list together, and I thought about this promo in particular before we get to it, I made an active decision not to mention it
and we didn't talk about this promo prior.
at all.
This is something that like you thought of by yourself not to include. This is something that I thought by myself, should be on here.
Yeah.
And I've heard outside opinions about this promo. I've heard internal like wrestling opinions about this promo. I watched this promo, which is weird because I very rarely watch in-ring segment like that. But Wrangler Rhett, strip away the makeup. Yes, in my opinion, was a damn good promo for what it needed to be. Going into the cage match with Alex Royal, you had Rhett standing there in his rodeo clown makeup. You had Alex pushing him to the brink. And even like Alex basically being like, you're nothing to me.
Yeah.
Like, what are you? You're just a rodeo clown. Like, I'm about to gear up and wrestle Ken Anderson. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah, he was basically tell me why it should be you.
Yeah. And for Rhett to wipe off his makeup, strip that away, and basically being like, I'm a guy that just had everything taken from me, and I'm going to take everything from you, was one of those things. And now, I will say, it may not have been delivered in the best possible way it could have. But if you strip it down, I believe it has a place on this list.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I remember this because, so before the show, me and Alex went and got lunch. I think me and him recorded a podcast this day, maybe. So we went and recorded, we went and got lunch afterwards. And he was asking me my, opinion on what Rhett should say. And I was like, you should have him wipe off the makeup. Now, I don't know if Rhett also consciously decided to do that. I'm not going to take credit for it at all. But I'm glad he did that. And I think everything he said was great. And I think it takes some balls to go out there and to basically, like, metaphorically speaking, like, just show everything. Yeah. Just show everything, who you are, what you're about, and just pour yourself out. I agree with that. And I'm not going to give Rhett any shit, If I'm looking at it from a critical standpoint, though, he said the same thing about 3 different times. And not just one thing. Like, he would go on a tangent and then say the same tangent a different way. And he did that multiple times. And he talked for about, I want to say 7 minutes.
It was a long and that's why I say, like, if you strip it away to the bare bones of it,
there is a very, very good, solid start to finish promo in there.
Yes.
And, it felt like a promo that he didn't practice. He probably just said, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to feel it.
Yeah.
And more credit to him to go out there and just do that.
Yeah.
But the deciding factor for me not to put it on there was he's a babyface. He's supposed to be drawing sympathy from the crowd. And one of the people in the audience said, get to the point already. So for that one moment alone, that's why I decided not to put it on here.
Okay.
But
I think that undoubtedly for me anyway, there is one very obvious winner.
Oh,
and it's the one we're gonna include in the link of the YouTube video of this episode. Seth the Pimp and Mr. Nasty Gen Z vocab.
And if this podcast gets shared 20 times on Facebook, Mr. Nasty and Seth, they haven't volunteered for this, so we'll let them know later. We'll do a part 2.
I'm gonna kidnap them, and we are gonna have them on this podcast regardless.
Yes, in full character.
Yeah,
I don't want them out of character.
They're 2 of the funniest fucking people that I've ever known.
Yes. Okay. So, all right, let's get to the shit here.
Real quick before we go, I have saved this pie from McDonald's. It's their holiday pie.
Ooh.
But it I don't know what to make of it because it's like sparkly looking.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try it?
I will try it. Ooh.
I tried to break that in half, but it just broke the tip. Okay.
Mm,
Kind of custardy.
okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of the sprinkles. For sure.
I am too.
Pretty damn good. Can't complain.
Okay. Okay. So we have to speed this up a little bit because we've been going for about an hour and a half already.
Uh-huh.
And we're only almost halfway through this list.
Yeah.
So here we are. Match of the year. Tommy Dean versus Wesley Crane at the anniversary show. Tommy Dean versus Alex Royal, walk through your front door match. Wesley Crane versus Riker, excessive violence match at TIW's No Pressure, No Diamonds, Paris. Wrangler Rhett versus Alex Royal in a steel cage. Cappuccino Jones versus Tommy Dean in a street fight for the Core 918 Championship at the Summer Sundoff. Cappuccino Jones versus JTG. Tommy Dean versus Riley Grant, no holds barred match. Merck versus Tino Valentino, Core Professional Wrestling.
Uh-huh.
Did you watch that match?
I did.
Where did you watch that match? You got because you can't go to Core at all.
Nope. It was on YouTube.
Oh wow.
Yep.
When you recommended that match, I was so confused.
Yeah.
How? Okay. Barrett Brown versus Fuego del Sol, Texoma Pro, Uncharted Territory.
Mm-hmm.
So many things we can say about all these matches. The match with Riley is my favorite match I've ever had with Riley. My match with Cappuccino on here is my favorite match I've ever had with Cappuccino. To be fair, there's been a lot less Cappuccino matches than there have been Riley Green matches. Matches are really good. The Alex Royal match, 7 years in the making. Walk through your front door, first of its kind. As poor as the name might sound, still a very good concept.
Very good match.
Awesome match, very good match. In shape, mood was right, everything. Also, I finally got the pile drive Alex Royal for the first time. And real quick, before I get to the actual whatever, before the show, he was like, just pick me up for it one time so I can just know how it feels. And I picked him up, and he's like, you're fucking a lot stronger than you look.
I think that I don't think a whole lot of people give you that credit, is that you're a strong motherfucker.
I tried. There are 2 matches on here I think deserve to win.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are you versus Riker in your excessive violence match, and you versus me. And selfishly, I will vote for you versus me.
I got to say something about the me and Riker match. That was an interesting match because that event didn't have a crazy big crowd.
No.
It was a very intimate setting. Also, 2 or 3 matches before us, somebody comes back to the back and they're like, hey, be careful. One of the boards is broken and sticking up. So
I remember this because I had to kick it back in place right before my match.
So we're out there and I look down and I visibly see the edge of this board like protruding, and you see the canvas all poked up and shit like that. And I just remember like looking at Riker. I kind of like nodded to it. He acknowledged it. And there's a moment toward the end of that match where he picks me up. Mind you, the setup for this match, he power bombed me like 6 fucking times.
Yeah.
And so in the match, he picks me up, fucking power bombs me, does it again. But this time he power bombs me on the broken board. Normally, that would suck.
Yeah.
The arch of my lower back hit just right where I couldn't even tell it was the broken board. The only reason I knew it was the broken board was as he had me in the pin and pulls me into him, I felt my back slide over that board, and I was just like, oh shit, that could have been real bad.
Could have been.
And I kicked out, and he was just like, I'm so fucking sorry, dude. But it was a good night. It was a good match.
Okay.
I also have to pick though you versus me at the 13th anniversary. I think everything was hitting. The setup for it. It was a year long payoff. It, I believe, deserves the win.
Which brings us to our next category, feud of the year, where the first decision is Tommy Dean versus Wesley Crane, which I'm going to pick for right off the bat because 13 months in the making. It took up damn near the entire year.
Yep.
We had 3 matches, 2 of which were last year, or this year, I should say. And with the entrances, the match was great. Everything perfect. I had no complaints about that match at all. Just to put out the rest of them, though, we also have Iron Mountain versus London Calling, Subject to Death versus Sympathy of the Future, Nathan Estrada versus Merck, or you could just say Nathan Estrada versus All of the Regime.
Yep.
Riley Grin versus Tommy Dean, which was weird because it's a feud within a feud, but I think there were enough moments in matches that it could stand out on its own. Alex Wall versus Wrangler Rhett, Wesley Crane versus Riker, and that is it. I kept going like there was going to be more. There's not.
The feud with Riker and I was very interesting because I remember before all of it, Alex and the rest of the TIW figureheads were asking me like, "Hey, we're gonna put the belt on you, but who do you want to work? Like, who are you wanting to feud with right out the gate?" And I was like, "I want fucking Riker," because I remember when Riker was like the guy. It was around the time you were starting to come in. Riker was one of the bigger guys on any roster that he was on, and I missed seeing that, and I knew that it was still in there. So having the conversations with Riker, pushing him to become what he is now, it made me feel some type of way in the best of ways, and I couldn't be more proud of the progress that he's made thus far. However, me versus you. It's the longest feud that Oklahoma had seen in a long time, that had, even though it took fighting, pulling teeth, it had the most consistency, and every match that we had fucking delivered.
Also, it led to my dream match, so thanks.
It led to your dream?
Yeah, it's with Chris Bay.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
I was able to get that dream match and make it make sense.
Yeah.
Within the storyline. So,
Right. So yeah, I feel like that one is the viable choice for sure.
all right. Tag team of the year.
Yes.
Yes. So we have Subject to Death.
I refuse to call them the subject.
Okay.
I refuse to call them the subject.
STD's too good.
STD is too good.
Yeah. We have Toxic Masculinity. We have Iron Mountain. We have the Players Club, which is Mr. Nasty, Seth the Pampa, Floyd Maystorm.
Mm-hmm.
We have History in the Making, Tim Rockwell, Alex Royal, Wesley Crane, Zach Royal, Riley Gren. We have Simply the Future, and we have Divinium. Now, I have some disagreements with some of these.
Okay.
Not because they're not good tag teams. I think Divinium...
Fucking factions.
No, actually, I think Divinium and Simply the Future are getting a little love here when they've only had one match in Oklahoma this year.
Okay.
So that's my only thing on that, though. What do you think?
Simply the Future, I believe, even though they just had one match this year,
Mm-hmm.
they have been a staple of the Oklahoma wrestling scene for the last, I'd say, 7-8 years. So that's why, in my opinion, they belong on this list.
Okay.
But they got their flowers. They had their goodbye kiss, and so I feel like putting them on one last list is that.
Absolutely. That's valid.
Divinium. The reason I put Divinium on here was because even though they had just the one match, they're the fresh faces,
Mm-hmm.
and they went out there and killed it in one of the coolest events we've seen in Oklahoma to date, being the Summer Bazaar. Massive crowd, and they went out and just slaughtered it.
Absolutely.
So that's why, in my opinion, those two teams are on this list.
Gotcha. Absolutely. I can't argue that. I'm going to go for STD. Just because they've been so consistent in multiple promotions. They retired STF. They won tag titles. They've had main events. They've been across 2 promotions, I think. More if you count outside of the state.
Yeah.
So, and I also think Derek James is probably one of the most consistent workers I've ever seen.
I've seen a lot of progression and a lot of improvement out of Derek James the last probably 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Very proud of both these boys. So I'll also, I'll also give it to Subject to Death. Very well deserved. This next category is something that I wanted to throw in, and I do believe that it is on Oklafan. However, I think they said ring announcer of the year.
Announcer of the year, yeah.
And I don't want to just narrow that down to ring announcers, because they're like, these people lend their voices to more than just ring announcing, whether that be online content, whether that be backstage, segments. These people lend their voice to multiple facets within the pro wrestling genre. So the title of it being Voice of the Year. You got Anna Lynn, C.M. Burnham, Jason Doggins, Tuck Davian, Ryan Pilkington, which is the guy that did our, he did the 13th anniversary. Fantastic.
My favorite introduction ever. Like, not because it was like he said anything crazy, but just, I don't know.
Big fight feel.
Yeah, he made it. It felt like a UFC fight. Yeah, the way he did it. So I appreciated that.
And the last name on this list that I have is John Black of Spaded and Jaded, because he has a way of getting on that microphone and getting those people just fucking rabid.
Those are his people.
Those are his people, man.
Yeah.
Like he has a way of doing that. So definitely deserve to be on this list.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
This is because
I also think Travis Fowler could potentially be on this list as well.
he could be.
Yeah.
Yes. He is on another category here, I think, coming up in the next one or two.
Okay.
But yes, Travis Arkwriter is also a phenomenal voice when it comes to commentary or just being on a microphone.
Yeah.
However,
I'm gonna go. It's between. So
this one's hard.
I'm not gonna pick Ryan Pilkington. I want to, but I have to think beyond that one match.
Yeah.
That's one match on one show.
Yeah.
I have to think beyond that. Not to say he didn't do that for every match. He probably did. But it's hard for me to just separate that feelings. So I have to try my best to do that.
This one's difficult, man.
I love Doggins. If it was more than just TIW, I would pick him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go for. Man,
I'm telling you.
see, there are people on here that I think do a lot, and they do a decent job. But there are also things I dislike that they do.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna pick them.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick Anna Lynn.
Okay.
Because I do think that she's consistent when she does it, and she's never done anything that pissed me off. She's never done anything that I found annoying, even watching as a third person, like a third party.
There are only 3 people on this list that have actively come up to me in a backstage setting and are like, "Hey, is this information correct, or how would you like to be announced?" There are 3 people that have done that. Those 3 people being Anna Lynn, Ryan Pilkington, John Black. Those 3 people have made an active effort to make sure that the job they're doing is to the best of their possible ability. I have to give it to Anna Lynn for a couple reasons. One, most consistent across the board. It doesn't matter where she's announcing. It doesn't matter where she is. It's the same job, and it's going to be fucking phenomenal every time.
And I'm not necessarily talking consistency as in terms of she does it the most. No, she doesn't do it the most around here. But when she does do it, you can always predict that it's going to be good.
It's a recognizable voice.
Yes, another big deal.
Yes.
And a wrestler, she just when she stands there, you see her. She doesn't blend in with the crowd.
No.
So
She's got a presence.
she's got personality.
Yeah.
So
in theory, if there was a second place or a second choice, Ryan, phenomenal. I've had him announce me in Arkansas as well. However, I got to give it to John Black.
Yeah.
Again, dude commands a crowd.
Yep.
Those are his people.
Yep.
And he's got a way about coming out and be like, "Y'all motherfuckers ready?" And they are ready.
Yep.
So, Anna Lynn, second place. I got to give it to John Black.
Good deal.
Manager
of the
Yes.
Jeez. Manager of the year. I'm just gonna quickly run through some of these because we're on time right now.
Yep.
And my fiance is probably gonna be home any minute. So, Chelsea Stackhouse, Muhammad Burnham, Mike Andrews, Mike Isles, Richard Pierce, Tony Snow, Travis Harkender, Zach Royal.
So, with this one, what are the criteria here?
Did they get their guys wins? First of all, how good of a manager are they? Are they getting their guys wins, or are they just there taking up space?
Look, I know a lot of people don't like it.
Oh yeah.
I personally find Tony Snow to be one of the most hilarious managers ever.
And he gets his guys wins.
Dude brings heat. Dude gets his guys wins. I think I gotta give it to Tony.
Yeah?
Do you think?
We're going to defer again here. I'm going to go with Zach Royal. Zach Royal, when he manages Alex, Alex wins. The second he turned on Alex lost. So I think that's a testament. I think it's a testament. Also, he takes a lot of shit. You know,
He does take a lot of shit.
he eats a lot of what Alex Royal probably should have deserved.
Yeah.
So taking the fall.
Yeah.
You know, I'm picking Zach Royal.
We're in our last stretch. We got
3 more categories.
Yeah. This is the most loved wrestler of the year. We got Wrangler Rhett, Cappuccino Jones, Sam Stackhouse, Wesley Crane, Mr. Nasty, JD, Eddie Levon, Mr. Nasty, Skylar Slice, Nathan Estrada, Tino Valentino, Barrett Brown, JTG, and Fuel.
I'm going to point out you have Mr. Nasty on here twice.
You like?
E and H.
Oh, sure enough.
So if you want to vote for Mr. Nasty, let's try to keep it all on E.
Yes.
But so because I don't want to edit, we don't need to go back and edit this now because we've already submitted our votes. But I will say the list I sent you for my list was very short.
Yeah.
I had 5 guys on here, and I think I went back and edited 1.
Yeah.
That one being Fuel, because when you do go to UWE, he's the president. Dude's over. He's over as hell when you go to UWE.
No.
I submitted Wrangler Rhett, Cappuccino Jones, because they are the 2 most beloved guys right now.
For sure.
Sam Stackhouse, because when he shows up, it's everybody just loves to see him.
Yep.
Mr. Nasty, because he's been consistently over.
Yep.
JD, same reason as Mr. Nasty. He's also a man of the people. And I picked you because no matter if you're a baby or if you're a heel, everyone loves you.
It's really
You almost never get booed.
I could chop somebody's dick off and people would cheer.
Yeah, it makes it hard to. I will say it makes it very hard to feud with you and be the baby face.
I'm sorry.
It was easy at UWE when I was a heel and we had our feud, our little mini feud that was like 3 shows long. It was very easy to get booed because you're very likable. But when I'm the baby face and you're the heel, and I'm getting booed in my other matches that have nothing to do with you because you're so over, it's hard not to put you on this list.
I feel awful for that most times simply because I try my damnedest to get booed. I will flip people off.
Yeah.
I will spit at them, and like they're still like fuck it. They dig it.
Yeah.
I think that there are 2 that you submitted that are the obvious contenders, like serious contenders here. However, I personally have to give it to Cappuccino Joe.
I do too, and I think the 2 maybe let's see if we're on the same train. The other one was Wrangler Rhett.
Yes.
Okay, and I think the one thing that separates them is Cappuccino Jones. This is no offense to Wrangler Rhett. We've had this conversation before, and I mean, I don't want to spend too much time diving deep because we're trying to fast. Cappuccino Jones sells tickets.
Yes.
And that's not to say that Wrangler doesn't.
No.
He does too as well. Cappuccino Jones packed a building.
Yeah.
On his own.
That is-
Yes, it is because of the WWE ID thing to some extent. But he put himself in that position.
Look, he wouldn't be a WWE ID prospect if he wasn't a true draw.
Yeah.
Like that is something that we're told from the moment we start training is asses in seats, and Cappuccino Jones has proven that he puts asses in seats.
Yeah. And you know, it's not to say that nobody else on this list can do that. True. We literally had this conversation like several times in private where it's like, whose face can you put on a flyer that's going to guarantee more people? The list is very, very short.
Yes.
And there's going to be a lot of people that probably take offense to that.
Sure.
But there's you can go look at every flyer that's active right now for an upcoming show this weekend. And most of those faces don't add anything.
I also want to point out though that you and I are not like malicious people who are just going to shit talk people because we don't like them.
Yeah.
If we say, look, like your face doesn't go on the flyer because you don't pull in seats or like because you don't, like, it's nothing against you.
I'll be the first to admit my face doesn't pull in that many more people.
It's simply because we want to be honest, and honesty is the best policy. Honesty is what's going to get us all further.
Yeah, I think the very few people. I think Cappuccino Jones and Sam Stackhouse are the 2 big ones on here, for obvious reasons. I think Skylar Slice can be in that conversation too.
Yep,
because she's very good at And you have JTG on here.
I do.
That's a little cheating.
It's cheating.
He's a name.
But hey, I just want to point out JPG's on this list, and he's not our vote.
Yeah, not our vote. I think Bear Brown could do that.
Yep.
And then I think on one level lower than those guys, you got Latino. You got Mr. Nasty.
Yep.
And you.
Okay.
And then you. I think on the lower level of that, you have people that if you put their face on their town, people will show up, like JD and stuff. So that's where I'm kind of basing this off of a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah, Cappuccino does.
Yeah, for sure. Next, we have most hated wrestler of the year. You want to rattle them off?
Yep. We got Alex Whirl. We got Riker. We got Diamond Duke. Tim Rockwell. Riley Grin. Duke Cornell. Cade fucking Fight. Merc. Jack Davenport. Derek James. Colt Kilbane.
Much shorter list.
Much shorter list. All these guys, really good heels.
Yes.
Really good at making people not like you.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep this really quick. I'm picking Riley. Weirdly enough, I think it's a toss-up between Alex Whirl, Riker, Riley Grin, Colt Kilbane, and Merc. I could have easily said Merc. In fact, I'm kind of considering changing to Merc. Alex Whirl was a babyface at some point. So was Riker. Colt Kilbane only did UWE, I believe, in Oklahoma this year.
Okay.
And he was feuding with Fuel. Not to say he's not a good heel. Colt Kilbane is a good heel. But when you're feuding with Fuel at UWE, it's a little bit of a cheat code.
Sure.
So it's between Merc and Riley Grin for me.
I'll give it to Riley Grimm because I can't think of another guy that has come in their first, going into his second year, and has drawn as much heat as Riley has drawn.
I agree. I'm going to go with Merc, though, instead. I'm changing my vote to Merc because based on my own criteria, basically, like Riley Grin did start the year off as a babyface. I do think that made his heel run even better, but Merc was consistent throughout the year. So I'm giving it to Merc.
And last but not least, this is the one that everybody waits for.
Yep.
This is Wrestler of the Year.
Here we go. We got Riley Grin, Wesley Crane, Ray Lorette, Riker, Merc, Cappuccino Jones, Skylar Slice, Tommy Dean, Alex Royal, Tim Rockwell, Seth the Pimp, and Mr. Nasty.
This is hard.
Yeah, this is Duke Cornell hard.
This is a very difficult choice because there are some people on this list that have done great things this year. Yes. There are also some that have dominated this year.
Yes.
However, the criteria for Wrestler of the Year.
Let's we can spend a little bit more time on this. Let's go over some of the things that need to be taken into consideration. When I think of this list, I think of like when we're going to make our top 50. Like, that's definitely another thing I want to do. Sure. You know, when Oakland does theirs, I want to do ours, top 50. I want to take the criteria that is claimed to be on that one and actually implement it. I'm not just talking strength of schedule. How good are these guys in the ring? How good's their promo? How's their gear look?
Yep.
How's their physical condition look?
Yep.
How consistent are they? Because it should be in some category.
Sure.
How many different places they go?
Yep.
You know, I think all those should serve an equal amount. I don't think any one of those categories should weigh over another.
Right.
I think they should be all equal amount. So going down this list, it's definitely more tough.
But dude, I think there's one choice. When you put all that criteria, there is one choice.
One choice?
There's one.
Really?
Yeah.
This is one?
There's one.
I don't know, dude. I'll let you go because I'm still struggling to think.
I believe that out of the fact that, like, consistent scheduling, he works the most places, he looks the best. He doesn't have traditional wrestling gear, and I think that works for his character. Cappuccino Jones has to be the choice.
Okay. I'm deferred a little bit. I'm leaning towards Riley.
Okay.
The one, so there's a pro and a con on Riley's though, because I guess kayfabe wise, the point is to win matches.
Sure.
He's lost a lot of matches, but he's also won a lot.
Yeah,
and he's won a lot of big matches. Cappuccino Jones hasn't had any gold, not outside of core. To be fair though, Riley hasn't had any outside of WFC. So it's a tough one.
Also, I want to point out that Cap has the in-ring work down to a science at this point.
Yeah.
And I think I think you're going to see like that become even more evident, like the more he works with WWE and the ID prospect thing. You'll start to see habits that he's going to pull in that you would think are super obvious things, but like 90% of guys in there don't think about.
Yeah. I would also make a claim for you on this list because you held titles in 2 different companies. You've probably had, maybe not the most, but you've had a significant amount of main events as well. So I think there's a case for it to be made for you as well in here. And I think you've put on consistently good matches as well.
I have a hard time.
It's hard to look at yourself.
It is really difficult for me to look at myself.
Like I'm refusing to look at myself.
And I would argue that like you're probably in there too.
I think my claim is that I've had the best matches.
Yeah.
I think I've consistently had matches that could have been on a match of the year list for sure. I think that's my one claim. I don't think I necessarily fall off any other categories, but I think I'm outdone in every other category though by at least a couple people.
I was like, but your gear looks fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like no matter what gear it was, it looked fucking cool. Your physique also, like I know that you may not feel that you look the best right now, but you went from doing 75 hard and looking fairly cut to ballooning up to what are you now?
255.
And look fucking like you look like a monster.
Aside from my stomach, yes, my upper body, like chest up, I feel like I look great.
You look insane.
Yeah, I'm just also eating whatever I want.
So I would even throw you in there with a physique.
I would throw. So I'm thinking there's Riley, there's Cap, there's you, there's Riker, and then there's Merc.
I want to give a shout out to Riker real quick because just on the topic of physique, dude dropped a shit ton of weight.
Still going to.
Like, you saw Riker at 400 and something odd pounds, and in the span from like fucking December to March, he dropped from like 400 to like 300 and what? He was like 360 when we worked.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Riley over Cappuccino. I think if you look at what they're doing overall in the world of wrestling, it's easier to pick Cappuccino.
For sure.
I think if you condense it down to Oklahoma, Riley had big moments in Oklahoma. He won the Ryder Cup, as everything we said earlier. He won the HTH. He's had a lot of good matches this year. Had a great tag team moment too this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just think in the realm of Oklahoma wrestling, he's done more.
But isn't that all in one place?
You could say so. You could. He's wrestled, I think this year he's wrestled TIW, WFC, Core, and WA.
Oh.
I don't know if he's done UWE or not. I don't know.
Okay. Has Cap wrestled WA this year?
This year, I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
He may have stepped away from that to pursue, I don't want to say better things, but like he's pursuing a specific purpose.
Yeah. Cap also had a decent year though.
He did.
Wrestled three Oklahoma promotions from what I know.
Yup.
Did Cap do Texoma? I don't know. It's one of those things. He captured gold at Core, beat me in the main event of the last Core show. Maybe tap out too. So
It
is, yeah.
Well, okay.
I'm just gonna stick with Riley.
In speaking with the criteria, I believe that Riley does hit all of those.
Yeah.
I was very headstrong with Cap, but like looking at what Riley's done, where he's worked, everything that we've talked about thus far, I believe that he does fit that criteria a lot more.
I got you. There's not a wrong answer.
No.
Every name on that list, you could pick them, and you could argue for them. That's why they're on the list.
For sure. That's why you're on it. They all deserve to be on there.
Yeah, it just depends on what you base it off of.
So Riley Grin. Let's submit.
There we go. There we go. That's our year end awards. You can tell us in the comments what you guys think. We're gonna send this list out to about 8 other people.
Yep.
Give or take. I'll just name off a few guys that I plan on sending it to.
Okay.
Titan Yin. Because yes, he's our student. He's our friend. He's biased. He's not on this list.
I mean, other than in Divinium.
Yeah, I guess I forget about that. But as to compared to Riley, who's on this list for like 7 different things.
Yeah.
Titan is only on there in a tag team sense. And I trust him to have his own opinion. Sure. To look at it subjectively. Jason Doggins.
Yep.
Yes, he's on there for a voice, but I don't think he'll vote for himself either. And if he does, who cares? Whatever. I'd like to send it to John as well. John Black. I think he has a really good outside perspective.
Yes.
On a lot of these other categories. Travis Fowler.
Yep.
And I want to send it to a fan as well, but not just any random fan. I want to zone in. I'll want to think about that off screen. But like,
I know 2 fans I know one fan in particular that I want to send it to, just out of pure hilarity. And I do believe that she's going to give a straight up non-biased opinion.
okay,
I'm also going to send it to Thornton River. He does WFC's backstage correspondence stuff. He has a very good eye and is able to separate himself from a lot of things. He's not on this list anywhere, but I know that he'll give a good, accurate thing.
I'm not going to say everybody who's on this list because I want some people to be protected.
Sure.
But in fact, I feel bad saying anybody's name now in case anybody gets mad. Let's run to them. Hey, if you don't like our fucking list and if you don't like who votes, that's fine. Same like I said about Oklafan earlier.
Yeah.
It's an opinion. It's a subjective thing. We just want what we feel is a more accurate representation
For sure.
of some of the best things that's happened in Oklahoma wrestling this year.
Yeah.
So, and yes, we are a little selfish, but we're also really fucking good at what we do. And I don't think anybody listening to this right now would tell us otherwise.
Agreed.
Right.
Tommy, we've got 2 more episodes for the remainder of the year before we're into 2025. We will have a Christmas episode that drops Christmas morning. So that's kind of cool. You're going to hear the results for this poll as well as our top 50. Now, the top 50 is going to come whenever Oklafan drops their top 50. But you're going to hear the results for this poll on Wednesday, January 1st, ringing in the new year with 2024 year-end recap. So, as always, you can follow me on all social media platforms at I Am Wesley Crane. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Of course, you can check out my website, www.iamwesleycrane.com. Check out the classic collection of all the shirt designs that I've dropped throughout the entirety of my career and the winter collection. There's a ton of cool shit in there. Tommy, where can they find you?
You can find me at the Tommy Dean 32 on X and Instagram, the Tommy Dean Pro on TikTok. You can check out my merch at the TommyDeanShop.BigCartel.com. You can find Parabellum Parabellum merch. Is the new site ready yet?
Yes, it's up. It's up.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and pull that
URL up. While he's doing that, also, just want to give a quick reminder to go listen to episode 2. Listen to our dodgeball teams. Tell us who wins that. Make sure you comment that down below because also on January 1st, the loser's getting pelted with a dodgeball.
Yep. That's going to happen.
Either I'm going to get hit with a dodgeball by Eddie LeVon, or no, not Eddie LeVon, Anthony Wilde and Wesley Crane, or Wesley Crane will be pelted by me and Eddie LeVon.
Yes.
Eddie LeVon and Anthony Wilde still to this day have no idea that they are automatically signed up for this.
It's okay. We'll throw a sack over their head, kidnap them, and then whoever we're kidnapping is going to have a blast throwing dodgeballs at the other.
They will.
The new Parabellum shop, it's a little bit of a mouthful for the URL. However, I'll link it in the description for this episode. But it's parabellum-bra-shop.fourthwall.com. PARABELLUM-BRA-shop.fourthwall.com.
Metroplex.com.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
If you don't like that, well, you know what? That's some bullshit.